And greetings, casual citizens. Welcome back. I'm Paul, joined as always by my illustrious co-host Jason.
Howdy.
And we're here reviewing Handmaid's Tale, Season 3, Episodes 1 through 3, because they stealthily dropped 3 on us.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. So we would normally have this up in what we're planning on going forward. So this Wednesday, we will record it live on YouTube, youtube.com/casualnotion. Well, not /casualnotion, because get us our vanity URL. YouTube. Anyway, but you can catch us at youtube.com/casualnotion live on Wednesday, probably around 7 p.m., I would say, reviewing episode 4, and that'll be every Wednesday going forward until the season ends or we die.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those, who's to say what will happen? But they stealthily dropped the first 3 episodes on us, so we're going to review all 3 of them right now, all at one. But we're not going to do what we normally do. If you want to see what we normally do, well, wait for episode 4. Or you could also look at any one of our other content that we reviewed. We have Star Trek Discovery Season 2 reviews. We have Game of Thrones Season 8 reviews. And we just started Big Little Lies. Haley and I started Big Little Lies Season 2 reviews. And the first episode of that is live. And we will also continue doing that every Sunday about 10:30. So we're going to do a little different this time, because there's just way too much content in these first 3 episodes to go beat by beat like we normally do. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to talk about generally the themes of Season 3 and what we think so far. So Jason, Season 3 so far, what do you think?
They were a real bastard for dropping those first 3, though.
I know.
Because I saw them like at midnight or whenever they dropped it, just about when they dropped it. And I was like, oh, I'll just stay up and I'll watch the first episode.
Right.
I'll sneak.
Right.
You know, I have work in the morning. But then I saw, they got 3 of them. I was like, I knew at that point that I was going to be irresponsible.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't know that, and I was already asleep, so I didn't watch them. That's why we didn't get them up that Wednesday. So I apologize, but going forward.
So I'm surprised how much I've liked Season 3, the first 3 episodes, and the last season as well. Now, do you know if the author, is she still alive, and is she contributing any to these past 2 seasons?
That's a really good question. And you know I should know that because we just had this discussion with Handmaid's Tale.
Sure.
With Big Little Lies.
Sure, but you do know that this ends at the first
season
1.
Yeah.
Right, and we don't know, in the book, we don't know anything about Moria, about whether she made it or not.
Right.
But this is so satisfying. I think that part of what makes it satisfying, someone was asking me, I recommended watching Handmaid's Tale. They said I'd never heard of it. I said, my God. But they wanted to know what it's like. I was like, well, do you ever read 1984? And of course, it's American, so no. And and then I asked, well, did you ever watch V for Vendetta? And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, it's like that, but there's no hero.
Okay.
Right? There's no super heroic, there's no supernatural hope that's coming to rescue you.
Right.
Right? And I think the steady trickle of catharsis that they've been putting in Season 2 and Season 3 has really worked.
Right.
But, you know, I was worried about the thing that everyone else was worried about with Game of Thrones, right? Because the writer stopped writing.
Yes.
And so the directors have to do stuff now.
Yep.
And I was worried that was going to happen here because I really liked the novel.
Right.
But it's still somehow pretty good.
Yeah, and it feels, because like I said, Haley and I just had this discussion with Big Little Lies, because Big Little Lies is the same way. Big Little Lies was based on a book, and it ended with Season 1 ended where the book ended.
Leftovers for that matter.
And I was going to say Leftovers is another one. And the thing that's common with Leftovers and Big Little Lies, because Leftovers were still great in Seasons 2 and 3, right? Mm-hmm. And Big Little Lies, there's only been 1 episode, but so far it's been good. And so what was the difference with that versus Game of Thrones, which really went off the rails when they ran out of book material, is that with both The Leftovers and Big Little Lies, the author of the book stayed involved. It was involved with the show and helped develop the stories for the later seasons. So the author of the Big Little Lies book, she's helping with Season 2. She's a producer and writer.
Okay.
And same thing with Leftovers. Whoever wrote the book was also involved, and he was on the writing staff. And George R.R. Martin was decidedly not. So Benioff and Weiss went and did whatever they thought that was supposed to be. They went and did that. And so it's a good question. I don't know. We should look that up. Or if you're watching this and you know, in the comments, let us know. Is the author of the book still alive, and is she still helping out with this? Because that would be really interesting. That would be an interesting trend. right?
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm totally. I agree a lot that season 3 has really pumped me up going forward. There is always a risk with this kind of show that it can, where everything is so dystopian, and the first season was so dark and so disturbing on so many levels, right? There's always a tendency that can wear out its welcome, right? And it gets so dark that you just kind of lose interest in it. And I do feel like Game of Thrones suffered with that to an extent.
See, I felt that Man in the High Tower.
Man in the High Tower did
me.
it.
It's like, bored. Okay, I get it. The Nazis won. It would be awful. I agree.
Right.
Point made.
Exactly. Yeah, Man in the High Castle is what I was thinking of too, because I totally checked out after season 2. I just didn't even care about season 3. Never even watched it. The Walking Dead, same thing, right? It's like I checked out now. It's like after 8 seasons, 9 seasons, I'm like, I've seen enough zombies and zombie wasteland. So to be getting what Handmaid's Tale is doing, which is like it's not all dystopian. We're gonna burn this shit down and we're gonna fix this, right?
Well, I think
I'm really excited about that.
Well, it's not just the way that they're approaching the catharsis is really interesting to me because, and this is something I want to talk about. I want to get it out there now, and I want it to be a unique theme for us, honestly. So they're starting out with, they started with the plight of the handmaid in season 1. And in season 2, you start to see the plight of the wife. You really start to see it, right? It's like it's not just handmaids. They're capitalizing on now on this last episode. Right. The end of episode 3, she was saying, they hate us. They're not on our side.
Yes.
Right. And that made it clear. But you know what? The thing I know that Lawrence, and we can talk about his mysteriousness. But what I think I'm really hoping for is that they not only make it about what does fascism do to the subjugated, and what does it do to women in general.
Sure.
But I also want to see what does it do to men. And what I thought, I know, and I don't want to. I'm not like a men's rights activist or a creep or nothing. Yeah. But honestly, I'm thinking about Lawrence and why he's so two-sided. It seems almost.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm interested in the idea. When Aunt Lydia was talking to him and his wife, and she asked how was the ceremony going. And he was like, aces, I guess. He didn't want this. Right. But so it's one thing to say, imagine, I mean, I'm sure I can't imagine a woman's plight or feelings in being raped ceremonially, regularly. But I can almost imagine, I can put myself in the shoes of someone who is compelled by the state to rape an innocent person. So at first it's played off in season 1 as like, oh yeah, Commander, what's the first one? Waterford. Commander Waterford, right? Fred Waterford. He's enjoying it, right? But there could conceivably be noble people out there, just good Christian fellas who are like, I don't want to have to rape them. So what if we see what happens? I'm hoping what we see is that Commander wants to get pressure. Well, how come, you're fertile, she's fertile. How come she's not getting pregnant? Are you not doing the ceremony of Joseph? Right? And he gets pressure from that side because maybe that's the straw. It's like, you do have to do this. You have to partake in this ceremony.
Well, to be fair, I don't know that we know that he's fertile.
Well, I know we don't know that any of them are fertile, but it could be used. Right. But then it's the state of Gilead. Anything could.
Well, okay, right, but my point with that is there are plenty of handmaids and their partners that don't work out and aren't having kids because they
do get eventually sent to the colonies for that. They do eventually.
The handmaids, yes, but not the commanders. Because we learned in season 2 that it was the guys who are infertile. Right?
Well, no, we didn't learn that. It was suggested. It was suggested by the
pretty much outright said
by the guy from Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to buy it, right?
No, I think one of the doctors said
especially since fertility tests are well, it's not just the doctors. Women have said it too. Oh, they're all sterile. A lot of them have said that, right? So it's very plausible, right? But
I thought we had a doctor that said it.
Maybe, but the fact of the matter is the fertility tests properly are illegal.
Yeah.
But I know I do appreciate this perspective on women. But also it would be interesting to see even those in power, are fearing for their lives and being forced into this system, right?
Yeah, I have less sympathy for
Of
him.
course,
but
of course, you have less sympathy for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but I do the nature of just the corrosive nature of this kind of strongman, religious fascism. Right.
Yeah, and it's always good to have three-dimensional villains, and because I'll be honest, in season 2, I was kind of uneasy with the flip-flop that it felt like they kept doing with Serena. Of there would be these things that would happen, and I would start to feel empathy for her, right?
Yes.
Be like, oh, she actually is a good person, right? Like, she just got whipped up into this, and then you find out, like, oh, actually, no, this was her idea,
Architect almost,
right?
yeah.
Like, this was her thing. And then she would be awful again, and then she would be good again, and then she would be awful again. And that was the thing I hated most about season 2, was just that yo-yo of like, I don't want to feel sympathy for Serena
That's so
because
funny
she has
you
done
say
so
that.
awful things, but now they are bringing it full circle, and she is so far in season 3. I am glad that they have committed to that, and that does help build dimensionality. And the same thing happened in Big Little Lies. They tried to build a 3-dimensional villain there, and it works really well, and that's good for storytelling. But there are sometimes, this was my problem with Man in the High Castle, where I was like, I don't want to humanize the Nazis.
No, for
now
sure.
feels like not the right time to be doing that, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to the whole fact of like, I don't know, have you ever noticed, whether it's Wolfenstein or Man in the High Castle or whatever, like every time there's this alternate reality that the Nazis won, they're like super technologically advanced.
Yes.
And it's this, it always makes me uneasy, right? Because I'm like, I don't know where that comes from. This fetishization of that the fascists are going to be really good at getting technological
Well, it comes from the
advancement.
It comes from the Cold War. It comes from the Cold War. It comes. I know. It comes from the idea that you have to outpace your national enemy,
But
technologically.
Okay, but
right. So the other side must be just they don't have any rights. The government can just tell them to invent things and work really hard, and so the idea is.
But you know what happened? They didn't get the nuke first.
Of
So,
course. No. I hear you.
I don't know why it persists.
It persists because it's prey to where they're preying. I mean, okay, we have 20 times the military, or we have the military of the next 20 countries combined, right?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? It comes from this fear of our national enemies being like technically inferior or superior to us, right?
Sure.
Right. So the worst kind of Nazi is one that has better technology than us. And a lot of people feel like when they're told, when school children, right, they're saying, how did the World War II end? The atom bomb, right? And even though that has nothing to do with Hitler, right?
Right. We
But
didn't nuke.
Exactly, but
Germany.
we all think, well, we won the war because we're smarter.
Mm-hmm.
We have better technology. When really it was just Russian blood,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but that's in our culture, and I feel that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
I think that's where it comes from. I really do.
Maybe
Our enemies
But
having
either
better
way.
weapons makes them seem more menacing and demonic.
Either way, this isn't the Man in the High Castle review show, but
Sure. Sorry.
but
sorry.
yeah, but and it wouldn't be because neither one of us watch it anymore. But anyway, no, it's just what I was gonna say was I like how with Handmaid's Tale they don't go that direction.
Sure.
It's very much like, yeah, no, like turns out religious zealots aren't really that good at innovation, and so their economy's struggling,
Yeah.
right? And they're really struggling here and there. And it's because it's funny because you go to Canada, we get these shots of them in Canada, and it looks like everything's like doing totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath they're still having this fertility problem,
Yeah.
right? But like they didn't turn fascist, and like they still get to drive cars and wear colors, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like the women can read without getting fingers cut off. So, and it turns out a lot of women are really good at like science and medicine and any other thing that you want to be good at,
Yeah.
So that actually really helps their society.
What are the demographics on people who are watching this show?
Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah. Because we've
I
talked
don't
about
know.
our Star Trek thing. We see Star Trek as a liberal ideal,
Right,
But we
right.
know that conservatives love it sometimes, right?
Yeah.
What does a conservative see? When
I don't know.
They watch this?
It's funny. I had a discussion with someone who was very religious, and he had never heard of Handmaid's Tale. And I was talking to him about, he was, oh, what's it about? And I told him, of course, he immediately knew the biblical story that it's rooted in and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, oh, it's interesting how they're, making this show about like, ginning up this fear of the right-wing Christians, the Christian right,
Mm-hmm.
being fascists and all that stuff. And I had to be like, yeah, but like there are multiple layers to it, like with Serena. And one of the things I hated about, again, with Serena's story was when she went to that college campus and then like all those liberal college kids started like throwing food at her and everything like that. And it was just like, it just felt such like a Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, like, this is what fascism, this is why you get fascism, because college liberals won't let this person tell their story about how we should have a fascist Christian society. And, you know, but then in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, but then like they won and it's abysmal, right? Like they got the fascist Christian society and they won. So there is depth, and you're right. I don't know. Do conservatives watch this show and enjoy it? It would be tough to, especially with season 3. Season 3 is getting very explicitly like you said, men aren't our friends. We can control them. We can become their worst nightmare, stuff like that. It would feel odd to see some conservative MRA type person, not just calling the show liberal propaganda, you know?
Yeah, because think about, and well, just on the topic of Lawrence, we don't know that he is a conservative of any kind, or we have no evidence to support.
Well, let's just talk about Lawrence.
Yeah, we don't have any evidence to support the claim that he would be religious. We have quite the opposite, in fact.
Indeed, I don't believe he's religious.
Right, he said under his eye, he goes, Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So I wonder if we're gonna find out that she's one of those liberal academics, and he came to the conclusion. I think is what we're gonna see. It's like I didn't see another way to prevent like you know the fertility issue, and the only organized group that was going to take action on this was the far religious right. And I decided to make a deal with them to prevent extinction, and that's going to be his thing, right? And he bemoans it, and he hates what he's done, and he hates what he's continuing to do. Because if you noticed in that meeting, right, he didn't really give a shit or speak about anything until Chicago was brought up, and he said, "No, there's viable women there. There's viable ways to have baby resources, in Chicago. We can't can't just carpet bomb it." Right.
I hope that's not where that goes, but I do see your point, because then there's also this when he's having that discussion with June and he's talking about Serena, how she was, taking food baskets to orphans in Africa when they were still orphans.
Miss McKenzie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it wasn't Waterford. Okay. Miss McKenzie, who is June's daughter's new mother, right? Her first daughter. And how, she was, like I said, doing outreach and taking food to orphans in Africa, and how, what did you do? Oh, you were just editing esoteric books instead of, going to pick up your sick daughter from school. Right. Which, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually a thing that happened that we saw in season 1.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How does he know about that?
Well, they know everything. That's the thing, is that it became, they started taking data on moral stains somehow, right?
But that I didn't think that had happened at that point,
right? And I hate to say it, but I mean, I was just arguing with someone in my family about this recently. About like, you just want the liberals to win everything, and you just want a nanny state wipe your ass, and you don't have any money because you pay tax. I'm like, okay, let's just be clear. What I want, what Jason wants, is a narrow lead for the liberals. That's what I want, right? Because I do honestly think that progressivism, right, by itself, with no conservative party to retard that motion,
sure,
right, is
yes.
you have a singular party that gets to define progress for you, right? Yeah. So just think, but and we would agree that child services. I'm getting back to the point, I promise. We would agree that child services,
sure,
right, is a good thing. I agree with that, right? Yes. You want the state to get involved if you think someone's getting hurt,
yes,
right? But how far does that go?
Yeah,
and then that moment where she goes to the doctor and she's like, well, how come you let him go to school?
Oh, I do. Right.
Now. So now it's a liberal government policy about taking care of children, right? Yeah, but now it's adversely affecting working women, right? And it's not fair in some way, right? And then something happens about fertility, and so now they want to take information, your information about your child. So it shows that any progressive direction that doesn't have, you don't hear the other side, right?
Well, I never got the impression that any of those things were coming from liberals.
I would think I would have suspected that a thing about taking care of children, right, about, that was related to child services, I guess maybe I just demonize the right too much, but I would suspect that anything that has to do with child services would probably be on the left that was useful, right?
I got more of the impression that this was after the fertility crisis happened and that this woman was like, you have a gift. How dare you not devote how dare you be a woman with a job? Why aren't you at home taking care of your kid? That's the vibe I got.
I didn't pick that up.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but
it's possible.
That's kind of what I remember.
It's possible. It's possible.
So anyway, but let's talk about Lawrence, because I'm having a really hard time figuring out. And there have been times where I was hoping that he was going to be this undercover,
oh yeah,
just trying to destroy this thing from the inside. And at the end of episode 1, right, where you find out that she's going to be posted to his house now. Mm-hmm. And then he meets her in the dining room, whatever foyer, I don't know, wherever he met her, right? And he says to her, like, you're not going to be in trouble, are you? And she says, no, sir. Like, I was hoping he would be like, wrong answer, right? No. Or like, oh, like you should be or something. And then, but like, no. And then the next episode, he was kind of awful again. But then by episode 3, he gets to be a little bit better.
Well, I'm worried about one sentence he said in general, right? Where he said about revolution. People need to blow off some steam sometime.
Yeah.
He was talking about, them blowing up that one meeting from season 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, people need to blow off some. I'm like, oh, no, I wonder if this is just part of it. Like, that's a 1984 concept, right? Remember, they created that manifesto that was against the government.
Yes.
Well, they're the ones who made it.
Yes.
Because they wanted to catch you, right? So I'm worried that that's what's being played here.
I am, too.
My optimistic side is that he's just an academic liberal, didn't see another way. He's trapped in the system that he built. He regrets it. And he wants to subtly break us out of it, but then again, maybe not.
Well, I don't get that impression that he's an academic liberal. I get the impression that he's more of an apolitical person. That he is not a people person, right? That he saw a problem, and he was like he wrote some academic thought experiment about, hey, this is how you could fix it, right? Not necessarily intending that to be the case, but and then somebody read it was like, oh, this is a pretty good idea.
Pseudo modest proposal.
Yeah, this is, and then this is somebody got a hold of it, was like, hey, this is pretty good, and offered him status and money, and he maybe didn't have an idea of how far it was going to go in the beginning. And then it was too late, and he's a survivor, so he's like, nah, I'm just going to lay this out, and I'm a guy, so I'm going to be doing all right. But like, I feel this isn't really what I planned, and I feel kind of bad about it. But like, whatever. That's the vibe I get from him. Now, his wife, I get the vibe that she is liberal, that she doesn't want to see that, and that whatever she's dealing with is maybe it's some kind of alcohol or some kind of substance abuse or something like that, or it's legitimate, some psychiatric issue caused from the fact that her husband helped architect concentration camps.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that she's not happy about it.
I wonder. I like to think that I'm kind of hoping, I'm kind of rooting that she's not crazy at all, and that deep down
she is.
And deep down she's running something.
Yeah,
she's running some secret thing.
Well, because we saw that in episode 2, she was told, because every time we'd seen her up before that, she was very, we just saw her, acting strangely, right, acting like somebody who was suffering from depression or something.
Crazy
like that.
is a good cover.
Yeah, and then you see in season 2 when the guys come, and then she's like totally like, oh, let me make you some water, and then she sees the blood, she's like, clean that up. She's like totally normal, and I was like, and then we see her out, and she's planting flowers over where the dead body was, and it's like, what is she involved? I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't go the 1984 route, because if we're gonna keep going this, I'd like some catharsis. I don't want just more dystopia, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's the impression. I don't think that's the direction they're going. I think they've made a very decided or a very conscious decision in season 3 to be like, no, we are bringing a revolution, right? I think the writers are reading the times, right? Because you kind of forget that while Handmaid's Tale season 1, it was written in the 80s as kind of a blowback to the conservative movement of the 70s and the Reagan conservatives, right? And she saw, I forget the name of the author, but she saw where this was going, and she was kind of right. But you kind of forget that Handmaid's Tale season 1, it aired in 2017, but it was mostly written and produced in 2016 before Trump won, right? And that they had an idea for where this show was going to go, and now 2 years into Trump, they're like, we can't. It's too lifelike, right? We got to give some people some hope, and we got to show the other side of it, which is like revolution, right? Stand up to this and make a change. So I do think it is a response to real life.
It's there's real life fears. I want to just be clear. There's real life fears, so especially surrounding a woman's right to choose.
Yes,
that are going
that's
on.
What I'm talking
that are
about.
going on. But
and the Me Too movement.
We don't live in a world where we can imagine Congress being slaughtered. Let's just put that out there, right? So it is still hyper fictional.
Yes, it is. No,
right,
I got you.
Okay,
I got you.
But yeah, it is.
But then again, do you think the Germans in 1932?
Sure, I don't know. I don't know. That's true. But this is. I wouldn't say that we still have a chamber of Congress.
Okay. But remember that what actually happens in the story is they blame it on terrorists.
Yes.
Right. Imagine Congress gets blown up, right? And they say, hey, it was Islamist terrorists. It's from Iran. It was Iran did it.
It'd be better if it was Mexico.
It was Iran did it.
It'd be better.
Okay, whatever, right? Or it was Mexican cartels. MS-13. MS-13 did it, right?
Wouldn't that be, yeah.
And so either it's Iran or it's MS-13 or whatever. And so we got to take there's no Congress anymore. We didn't do it, but there's no Congress anymore. So I got to have supreme authority for a little while until we have new elections.
Yes. If
I got to secure the state, right?
If I hear you, if all these things happen, yes.
I could imagine it. It's not that far away.
It would be a strange day if Congress was slaughtered. It wouldn't. I don't see it happening. But I do. What are we disagreeing about? That it's very lifelike. I just don't see that. I hear it all the time that it's lifelike, and I don't want to seem like a creep, but I don't think it's lifelike.
It's
owning women. It's
go ahead.
It's
a dramatic reflection of things that are really happening. Of this is the way that women are being treated in multiple ways.
I think that's fair.
The spirit behind it.
Fair. No, that's fair. That's completely fair.
The spirit behind things that are happening.
Sure. I can understand that. I can absolutely understand that. Objectification and limited opportunities compared to us. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
And to go back to your earlier point about what are they setting up the system? Of course. Like this is how authoritarianism works, right? The whole idea is to separate people and to make everyone suspicious of everyone else. Mm-hmm. That's how you control them. Mm-hmm. If you don't know who to trust, that's one way. The other way you do it is that you always have a caste system so that the people who get it the worst are on the bottom, but there's so many layers of people above that who are getting a raw deal, but they're not getting it the worst. And they always know that there's a worst. Yeah. So they feel like it's in their best interest to maintain the status quo.
I think that's the impetus behind Jim Crow laws, surely, right?
Yeah, well, even in slavery, right? Yeah. There was a difference between house slaves and field slaves, and
no. Even people opposing some people, you got to think all the people in the South that didn't wanted to uphold slavery and they didn't own slaves. Yeah. Why is that? Right? Is to maintain. I don't want to be the bottom.
I don't want to be the bottom. Yes.
Right.
And there were a lot of poor whites, right?
That
competed with them on labor.
I'm gonna get super duper esoteric on you for a minute.
Okay.
I think that there's a fundamental instability in the system, right? Thanks. Sorry. Because of the bottom of the rung. Now it makes sense for the bottom of the rung to be women. That's traditional. But the fact that the bottom of the rung is those who can give birth, right? So the bottom is the handmaids, right? They're the most property-based commodity of people.
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, they're the gay people in the concentration camps and they're gonna die from nuclear radiation.
Right, but it doesn't take a lot of effort to control a dead person, right? So the amount of systems that are in place to prevent handmaids from escaping, they have to wear red. They're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to talk to this. They have the strictest. I don't know why this
because they see them as a commodity. I feel like the show's been very clear that handmaids actually so like the Marthas and certainly people in the colonies see handmaids as being higher than them because they don't have to do the same manual labor. They get a lot of luxuries afforded to them, right? By being the ones that can conceive or that can give birth,
even
right?
having them as a lower caste. Okay, fine. You put a whole bunch of people. I'm going to even say they don't matter. Fuck the Marthas. I'm just talking. So you got commanders, you got the wives, and even just then, if you put the handmaids' tales right under them, if you want
handmaids,
to do
yes.
keep doing that. Even if you put the handmaids right at the third level, fine.
Yes.
My point is that every single new member of the upper caste, right, is related to a handmaid.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody has a handmaid in their life in some way, right? They were born of a handmaid. It's hard to keep them subjugated and not identify with them when you know everybody came from them, right?
Well, right, but that's why they removed the handmaids after birth.
I understand.
Instead of somewhere else, so that you never grow up thinking about that.
I know. Well,
you never know who it was, right? So the only parent that you know is the commander and his wife, right?
Right.
What?
Nothing. Next topic.
Am I not right?
No, you're absolutely right. That's a good point.
Okay.
Mine was a good point too. All right.
No, but I just don't think that handmaids are actually at the bottom or anywhere near.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are, but they are treated as a commodity, so therefore they're controlled, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they've given June a lot of leeway, right? If she had been a Martha and not been able to conceive, they would have hanged her a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I know that's part of the instability. You can't control them to some extent, right?
Exactly.
But they're completely subjugated.
But you're right. Like, this is the point. Any authoritarian society has this fundamental instability because people don't want to be controlled. And
right, but there's no class of North Korean that lives on of the working class of North Korean, which is uniquely required for the system to function, that is also subjugated totally. That's my point. That's what makes this less stable than North Korea. That's all I'm driving at. Is the actual requisite worth of this one small subjugated class of people, right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, it makes this uniquely unstable. That's my whole point.
I mean, that's somewhat fair. I think I might disagree, but only marginally. I think it's fair overall.
Right.
To be fair, because I've always said, like, why didn't they just create a government program to be like, hey, we'll give you lots of money if you become a surrogate for somebody, right? Because I mean, we know that would work. Moira did it. Moira did it, right? Like,
what do you mean?
Moira, she gave birth to a kid for another family, and they paid her for it.
Oh,
that was the thing that happened
before
everything went to shit.
Gotcha.
Right?
I've forgotten that. Yes.
Yeah, that's how they knew, because she was gay. So that's how. So
right.
she would have been sent to the colonies,
but
that's how they knew that she. That's why she became a handmaid.
But I would argue that's an even more unstable system, right? Because now you have a system where the state, the authority, is reliant upon the goodwill of a small subset of people, right? So if you anger them, they'll stop giving you babies, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's even worse. So then
that's right. They got great union leverage.
Yeah. So I think the only thing that is going to be, I would argue, I hadn't thought about this from that perspective, but now that I am, I would claim the best system you come up with in this society, where you needed these people more than you needed other people, right? You should put the handmaid. If you're going to have to make this caste system, the handmaid should be on top. I think, in fact, sure. I'm willing to make an argument for.
But that's not how the Bible story goes. Therefore, the problem.
I know. But right now, me and you are unshackling ourselves. Let's be Lawrence for a minute.
Okay.
And let's design our own perfect Gilead.
Okay.
I'd say that the most stable, and I'd say even more stable than a democratic system in a world where one small subset of the population is actually required to repopulate everybody else, right? They should have more. Oh man, I'm starting to sound like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That they should actually She says how many Supreme Court justices should be female. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, maybe all of them. I'm saying maybe this Handmaid should be on the top.
Yeah.
I think that probably makes the most sense since they're having all the babies, right?
Yeah.
Like
And it could. I mean, right? It's.
I'm getting a bit
Hold on,
Ayn on this.
I hate to make this analogy.
Sure.
I'm going to try to make this analogy as unsexist as possible, but it's kind of like an ant colony, right? Where the queen ant is the only one that can give birth. She says at the top, everybody serves the queen.
Look to nature.
Right? And, ant colonies are very productive.
Right.
So, so don't read too much into that. I don't intend that to be sexist, but to serve your point, yes.
Yeah.
That does make some kind of sense.
I'm starting to sound like I can't tell if I'm starting to sound like a Marxist or Ayn Rand, but one of them. Something about the fruits of your labor and the sweat of your brow. Sure.
Yeah, something about that. But I have to imagine that this is how Canada works, because now we're getting, so we'll move on to talking about Canada. We're getting some glimpses of what life is like in Little America, which is in Ontario, I believe. At least that's where they filmed the show.
Yeah.
And
now hold on real quick. I just answered this. Do you know? Do we still have Chicago? We have Hawaii.
No, Chicago is still resistance. You see a map.
Yeah.
In one scene of episode 3, I believe, he has Lawrence has it on his wall, but you see it at a very oblique angle, and it's dark, so it's kind of hard to see. But to me, if I was looking, I know they have everything in the north because that's where the show's set, right? And to me, there was stuff in the south that was in red that looked like maybe they don't have, and
now,
it was
I think that's
Texas and everything like that.
I think that's the Methodists. If I remember correctly, the Methodists they own a whole bunch.
Yeah,
which is really terrifying because
the
there's
Baptists
something
too.
There's something to that though. And it's really scary.
But I thought all that, because the Baptists have that Wisconsin, Minnesota.
I think so.
Region.
I think denominations.
But I think they're
Protestantism.
still part of Gilead. I think they're just states.
I think
Utah.
I think that the Methodists have their own thing going on here. If I looked at a map one time last season, and I think the Methodists have their own coalition that's unique.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure about
Could
that.
be. I'm not 100%.
But it's kind of scary because if you think about it, if civil agencies broke down and trust in civil government broke down suddenly, where would you turn? What are the most organized bodies of morality, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
religion.
Oh, you could have a Baptist state and a Methodist state. That sounds fun. Oh.
Can you imagine the Baptist state? No alcohol.
Now that's the thing that's most plausible to me. If that's the thing, I'd argue that's the most plausible thing about it, about the whole show, is that if everything broke down, religion would step in. These fuckers have no right to ask us. I'm quoting someone. They have no right to ask us to forget what they were like when they really did have God on their side. And the moment the secular state steps away, right, that's what's going to happen. They're going to they're going to run everything again.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel sketch about Jesus. Just put that out there, everybody. Sorry.
Yeah. This could be a whole different show.
I know.
Podcast.
Yeah, and everybody listening, I'd like to promise you that and it's going to be a lot of my fault mostly. I'd like to promise you that I won't run off on weird religious or political tangents that are esoteric and thought experimenty. I can't promise that I won't. I'm sorry. I don't mean any of it. How about that?
No. In this case, I don't think it's bad. How do you discuss The Handmaid's Tale without discussing religion and politics?
Yeah.
Especially in the world in which we currently reside, where, like you said, women's right to choose is seriously under attack, and living in a post Me Too time frame.
Mid Me Too, surely.
Yeah, well, I mean, post beginnings of the Me Too.
I know what you mean. Well taken.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about Canada a little bit.
Why is Nick so awful?
Look, there's multiple reasons, I think. One is he feels like a failure to some extent, right? He mentions he couldn't save his daughter, couldn't save his wife. Even now, he can't get to his daughter and his wife. And there's a part of him that's like that. There's another part of it that's like, she's talked about when Emily got there, she escaped, and then, with his wife's daughter, but his wife's daughter from another guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there for him to take in.
I guess. But we're not talking about this isn't Big Little Lies. No offense, guys. right? It's not like
How dare you?
No, it's not like there's. It's not
I
like
feel
this.
attacked.
It's not like this soap opera where it's like you care. Yes, I would care about that.
I feel attacked.
If I had, if my wife came home with like a someone else's baby, yeah, I'd be a whole thing. But like if she were in a concentration camp where she was forced to have babies and one of them got out, I mean, he acted like his manhood was on the line, or like he was.
No,
it's
no,
just
he
like,
didn't. He wasn't that bad. He was uncomfortable.
And the way he was talking to Emily about why don't you go back to your wife? And man, I was like, come on,
Yeah,
man.
that was
How
not
do you
fair.
not
That
get
was not
this?
fair.
He was just awful.
That was, but he came around in season 3, or I mean episode 3.
Did he?
Yeah,
He hugged
because
the baby.
He started taking care of the baby, and he had the discussion. And Moira pointed out to Emily, she was like, "Look, he's when he sees you, he sees June." And then he says later on, he sees the failure that he couldn't, like June stayed behind to get the daughter because he couldn't do it.
Yeah, all of this
So
is.
every time he sees it, it's just reminding him of his own failures.
And I appreciate that for him. But the fact of the matter is you have a Jewish person who just escaped from a concentration camp at your door.
Yeah.
You're not the hurt one here. So
I know.
stop being such a
I know.
baby.
I agree.
That's the thing.
I
That's
agree.
just ugh.
But he was drinking, and alcohol does things to people. You know. How it
Sure,
is.
sure.
When he stops drinking, he can be a lovely person.
Maybe.
I have faith that he'll be good. Although I still don't understand what's going to happen. Like, okay, if I critique this show about any one thing, and there are several things that you could critique it on, but the biggest thing I've always had a problem with is the whole June, Nick, and what's the other dude? The security guy, the guy who had fathered her other baby.
Oh,
Who
Fred
was
Waterford.
there? No.
Oh,
No,
Nick.
'cause
Nick.
No, Nick's her husband.
Oh, I thought that was also Nick.
No.
Oh, what's the? Oh, yeah.
What is his name?
It doesn't matter because he's terrible.
I don't know.
I
right?
hate him. He
He's
rapes
a commander
people.
now.
I don't like him.
No, he doesn't.
For all he knows.
What?
Oh, if you even if you're just like, I just, she had no
Who
choice.
did he rape?
He had no choice but to have sex. Like she couldn't have said no to him.
Oh, okay.
Serena brought
that's
him
fair.
to her
That's
and said,
fair.
"Do it." Now, yes, he was
Okay,
compelled
but-
to rape someone, and that's bad too. But he
Well-
also did it,
He did it. Okay, yes.
and then he was super weird about it the whole time.
well, because they liked each other before then, and they'd had interactions, and they had interactions, and it was clear that they had a thing before then.
Yeah, the best thing you can say about him is that he is just willfully stupid about the situation. Because
I mean, he's not my favorite.
multiple times in season 2,
He's
was
not a very good
super commandeering towards her,
Yes,
and
he's not a very good character. I hope he goes to Chicago, and I hope he dies.
I kind of do too.
I mean, I don't
hate
hope
that
anybody dies, but I hope his character is just not part of the picture.
See
anymore.
now, because here's the thing in the book that's made clear, that makes it obvious to me. Could they both be named Nick? Am I crazy? I think they could. They could both be named
Hold on,
Nick.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah,
You
look
keep
it up. But hey, the thing is, I forgot what we were going on about.
about the character, about him being awful and being forced to rape someone, and about him being stupid. None of that's ringing a bell.
He is stupid.
He is stupid. Oh no, okay, no, sorry, you're right. His name is Nick. Her husband's name is Luke. They're very similar.
They're both bad.
No,
No,
Luke is
they're
fine.
fine
Luke
names.
is fine.
You're fine named Nick and Luke.
No, with Nick. Okay, so I'll get back to my point. I just don't understand what they're doing with that three-way storyline of like. At first it was like, okay, she's away from her husband. She didn't even know if he was alive. She had no idea that he was in Canada when in season 1 happened. So to her, she's moving on, and she finds this Nick guy. Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Nick, in the book, right? The thing about the relationship is it's made very clear that she's doing this for herself. She needs some kind of sexual passion or some kind of thing that's she's taking an action that she shouldn't take, for her own sanity, right? To exert her own will.
Yeah.
Right. That isn't exactly made clear here to me ever, really.
Yeah.
It's like,
I've had a problem with their relationship from the beginning because there was, like you said, there was a part of it that's like she needs some human connection. She likes this guy. Okay, that's fine. She doesn't know anything about what her husband happened. She doesn't know that she's ever going to get out of this place. Great. It's fine. Then she finds out that her husband's still alive, still looking for her. she's like, she still loves him. Okay. But then, so what I thought it was going to happen was just, it was going to create this conflict. Oh, my husband's still alive. I still love it. He's still looking for me. I have this opportunity sometime to get back to him. So now but I had this thing with Nick, but like, I don't want to continue now that I know my husband's alive and I can get back to him. But then she does still keep going with Nick, but there's never any of that conflict. We never see her have an internal conflict about being in love with these two different guys.
Well, you know what's funny?
If they were polyamorous, you would be like, okay, maybe she just wants him to be the third when all this goes over. But they never mentioned that.
I claim that you need to check your privilege, Paul.
Okay.
I do. I'm going to surprise you on this. I think that it's wrong for us to judge her moral judgments about men. Like, we're here saying she should be worried about which men owns her. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no.
She shouldn't be worried about that.
Because neither one of them own her.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. Like, how is she in relation to the men in her life, right? I think,
yeah.
So for her, you know
That's
what, honey?
fair.
Do what you got to do. If you're not in a position to fret over whether you're betraying your husband because you could get murdered or your baby could get like something to it, I hear you. Do what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just fix it, right?
I think we just got a hashtag Jason woke moment.
I did. I think that was one of my woker moments because honestly, like, I mean, it's a rough time.
It's a fair point.
Do what you got to do, man. I ain't gonna judge you for it. I judge Nick for it.
Well, yeah.
I do. I think he should be if you really cared about this person, you'd be doing everything you could to get her and her daughter out. Which he did not do. He did not do that. He definitely tried to get him in his spot.
No, he was working to try to get her.
He was working on it.
He was part of. Remember, he held back Fred.
I don't find the sex ethical.
He was totally part of that plan of getting her out at the end of last season.
That's true. I still just don't. I just can't get past any of the sex. It just doesn't seem ethical to me to have sex.
No, it doesn't.
To have sex with a slave.
Yeah, because yes, it's a total power imbalance.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Which is again why I never liked that relationship. But anyway, to go to Canada, I think what I imagine is that Canada has some system like that, right? Or has some system like women, get compensated by the state to, be surrogates.
Voluntary contribution.
Yeah,
we should call it that.
Right. to help save the species, apparently, Yeah, and I imagine probably men do too, right? Especially if it is the fact that it's men that are infertile. Then you got to have the fertile men fill in some cups, right? So I have to assume that's what woke Canada has going on. And can we just give a shout out to Canada? That scene where Emily makes it across the river and the Canadian immigration guy is like willfully offering asylum. Wouldn't that be nice? Isn't that how Border Patrol should work?
Yeah, and they got Real 1984 right before it too, and it just pulls the heartstrings when he starts to say, have you been treated unfairly? Are you a subject of persecution? Yeah. And she almost says no.
Yeah, because she doesn't know
because she's scared to say something against the state.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, it got me. That was so good.
Very well done. Yeah.
Good job, guys. Good job on this.
Yes.
Don't Game of Thrones it. Don't make Offred burn down the city, please.
Yes, please don't do that.
Don't make June. Don't make her the Mad Queen.
She's off Joseph now. But I just gotta say, God bless woke Canada, right? Because they do that, they're just willing to give asylum to all these people, and then when they get there, we saw it when Moira was there. They're like, hey, here you go. Here's $1,500 to get you started. Here's a cell phone. Here's your insurance card. You can go get healthcare anywhere in Canada. And I'm just like,
I know.
How amazing is this place, right?
I know, and if you, I hate to piss off our more conservative people who have still stuck around. I swear to God, I don't know how you can watch a scene like that and not think to yourself,
I wish that we had
hold
that.
Hold on, and think to yourself, well, that's the thing. We have that. People do risk their lives to come here, to make it here. And some people think that's a bad thing. Yeah. That some people want to curb that, right? Yeah. That we would want to say to a group of hurt people, we'd rather you not think of us as a North Star.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I
because
It feels like a betrayal. It feels like because all the people who taught me that in grade school.
I know
Those people
Same.
are voting for this fucking wall.
I know.
And it's like it feels like a betrayal when they do that. It does.
I know.
That feels like a betrayal.
It
Because you
does.
told me otherwise.
I know.
You called it a melting pot.
Yep.
Sorry.
We had this, because we've had this again. You can't talk about the show without getting political, right? And yeah, we both grew up in conservative households, conservative families, Christian, all that stuff, right? And
But then again, we were. If you really think about us, we were only conservative because we thought everything was working like it was supposed to.
yes,
That's the thing. We didn't see the other side.
yeah,
Right? We thought, okay, yeah, we can be conservative, and yeah, you should shut the fuck up because everything is fine now. There is no
Right.
more racism. There's no more sexism, and that was just how we thought of things.
Yeah.
Right. And if you live
but
in
now
the world,
it's so obvious. It's like,
Yeah.
how can you still deny it, right? But I do go through the same thing all the time. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this, and I don't want to disparage anyone. But like, I experienced more racism and stuff, and more conservative stuff like that when I was growing up than I think you did. But there was still, my parents were big Star Trek fans, right? And so I grew up watching Star Trek, and it's like we said earlier, how do you watch Star Trek and not understand how liberal it is, and how do you square that circle? It seems weird. And it's the same, right? I grew up and it was like, these were the values I was raised at. Don't bully people. Don't be mean to people. People, you should believe in the good things of people. And that was based on the religion, right? It was based on the idea that we're all children of God and God doesn't make mistakes, right? And so there's some innate goodness in anyone. And it's just to see those same people being like, they're rapists, they're murderers, they're bringing crime.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, yep, that's totally what I'm thinking. That's totally what's been going on in my head.
you
It's
should
just
stencil that on the Statue of Liberty.
right. And then it's like the part that I always struggle with is then I get disparaged for being a liberal, and I'm like, but you made me this way.
Yep.
Like how is this surprising to you?
Well, this is an argument they'd make for charter schools. They shouldn't have sent you to that liberal,
public school.
Socialist public school, yeah.
In Southern Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the well-known liberal socialists in Southern Kentucky. Yeah, anyway. That's
where we're coming from.
That's where we're coming from. Yeah. So just to keep that in mind when you watch us with Handmaid's Tale going forward. But anyway, I just want to say shout out to Woke Canada and Emily. I hope we get more of her and see what happens with her journey going forward. We saw her. We didn't see her. I'm worried that we won't because we didn't see it at all in episode 3.
Yeah.
But and it was also interesting to see the things that she had to deal with. She gets there and they're like, her doctor's like, take a look at your cholesterol. She's like, my cholesterol.
Yeah.
She's like, I had my clitoris removed because I was gay, right? And I was speaking out against the government, like, and now I have to worry about cholesterol. What a culture shock,
Yeah.
It's just, and that I do want to see how they cope with how I want to see the show handle how you would deal with the PTSD of that, right? And one of the things I like about Big Little Lies, and I'll keep bringing it back to it, is they deal with the ideas of these women who are in post abuse or assault and things like that, and how it sticks with them psychologically, and they still start to feel guilty, right? For things that, they were abused and assaulted. And the same thing is here. How much of are they going to approach? I hope they approach this, that Emily has these same kinds of feelings of like the brainwashing was so deep, right? That you believe 2 + 2 = 5. So she struggles with how much of this was my fault. What could I have done differently? June's still there. Could I have gotten her out? There's a lot that they could explore there, and I hope they do. But we'll see going forward. But anyway, any other thoughts?
America was founded on Christian values. God, I hate it when you fuckers say that.
Don't be so mean.
I know. You people. You fine people on both sides.
If you are conservative watching this, look, we're liberal. I'm going to be unapologetically liberal, right? That's just how it's going to be. But, I hope that you stick around for the dialogue. because like we obviously have ideas. I don't want to be too aggressive and shut everybody out, but like I just hope that we can have I just want to make you see what's happening, right? I want to show you what's happening, and so I hope you stay subscribed and listen, and hopefully we can change some minds.
And tell us what thing you'd be willing to have done to a person on your behalf for the greater good. That if you're conservative, leave us that note.
Overall, obviously, would you recommend?
I'm so excited. Yes, watch all of it. It's
Watch
gonna
all
be
of it.
great.
It's great. It's really good.
I'm excited to go through all these. Next time we won't be so deep because we'll be able to just go through the episode. Just 3 episodes. Yes. We haven't ever talked about any of this before.
Yeah.
So we kind of got our feelings out there.
Yeah.
I think it was a good start.
Yes, it was a good start. And yeah, it'll be more like the return to a format, and hopefully we'll have someone else joining us. Next week. Hopefully someone who can bring a female voice to this podcast, because it does feel a bit weird just 2 guys sitting here talking about a show about female subjugation constantly.
What if she's just like, oh man, I hate all these handmaids. Like she's like on Commander's side the whole time. She just sees them as the good people.
It seems unlikely, but then again, it's important to bring this back to real world. The strongest constituency for anti-abortion is Republican women.
No,
like it's Republican women are anti-choice like 2-1 versus Republican men. So it's there is something to that, and anyway, it's a whole thing. So, but that has been our kind of overview discussion.
I'd argue that there's that's similar to what we were saying about the caste system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
they don't want a situation where you get to choose.
Okay.
I would say that people who are legitimately decrying this, they made their decision. And they bemoan anyone getting to make a decision.
There is part of that, I think, but it's hard for me to talk about this being a guy, not having to live with that. But I always feel like this is because you hear, I always heard conservative women I knew, particularly ones that decided to be stay-at-home moms, right? They would always hate that feminists would be like, they felt attacked, that feminists were attacking them or calling them bad women because they decided to be stay-at-home moms, right? And sometimes that would happen. I feel like that was reading too much into the right-wing propaganda. I feel like most feminists aren't really that way. Feminism should be about, no, you do what you want to do. And if you want to stay home, be a mom, stay home, be a mom, right? But maybe have that be a choice, not have that be something you're compelled into doing, right? But a lot of women who are in that position don't feel that way, and they don't appreciate being told that, like, you were compelled to do this thing because they like being stay-at-home moms, right?
Or maybe they don't like being reminded that in some cases they were compelled.
Well, and that's the other side of it. And it's always so hard to disentangle those two things. But when it comes to abortion, I feel like there is part of it there. But then I also feel like the bond between a mother and a child is so strong. I think it is hard for women who have never been put into a position where they have had to seriously consider abortion, just be, and especially if they had kids, think that bond is so strong. I wanted kids. How could you not want a kid? How could you make that choice? And it's just they see it as such a strong bond, they don't understand how anybody could break it, right? But they're just not in the position that they ever needed to, and they don't understand that women who have abortions go through the same things. Nobody wants to have an abortion.
I understand. It's this approach, while I appreciate it because it's highly considerate, it seems yellow-bellied to me, because all this nonsense from the right, all this nonsense sounds exactly as insecure as when men talk about gays. It does.
What?
When men? Well, no. The all the stuff about the gay movement, right? So the equal rights for homosexuals, LGBT community, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
by the way, happy Pride Month.
Yeah, happy Pride Month. Way to go, guys.
Yeah,
we're getting there slowly. Yeah. So every time any argument from the right ever, right, that has on the topic of homosexuality, it always smells of desperation. Insecurity.
Oh,
it always has this smell of insecurity.
Yeah.
And I feel the same thing when I hear people talk about abortion and killing a baby, and it always smells a bit fascisty.
Well, yeah,
fascisty always smells insecure.
Yeah, I would argue a lot of it is based in
because
insecurity.
they
That's
have
kind of
to
the
use
point.
the boot to make their point.
Well, they're in. Yeah, I mean, the thing with homosexuality, right, is how many times have you heard of anti-gay Republican politicians? Then, oh, their Grindr profile leaks, or they're caught in the bathroom with some guy, right?
I'd wonder if Susan Collins had an abortion.
Well, Susan Collins is an anti-abortion.
Oh, that's right. That's true. She's one of the good ones, right?
Yeah,
But in any event,
there's only 2 pro-choice Republicans in Senate, and they both happen to be women.
I'm sorry, Susan Collins, for slandering you, but in general, you're still on the wrong side of a whole bunch of things. But
Yeah.
but I would wonder, wouldn't it be interesting if we found? No, that would be crazy. It would be crazy to find like female congressmen on the right that were anti-abortion. We found out that a bunch of them had abortions. That would be the same thing as the anti-gay thing, right? Where we find out that a lot of them are actually gay. Mm-hmm. What if we found out? There's no way, right?
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, I think it's either 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 women have had an abortion at some point in their lives.
Oh man!
Now that being said, it's disproportionately poor women, obviously, and women of color. Well, again, tied to women of color disproportionately poor.
Have we ever had an American politician in one of the major 3 branches say that they have had an abortion?
No, but we know that the president of the United States has paid for them.
What? Oh, you mean Trump?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's dark.
Yeah. Well, actually, we don't know that. To be fair, to cover all my bases here, there are insinuations that he did, because there was one of the big donors and a member of the high up in the Republican Party. We know that he paid an abortion, but there were rumors that he was actually paying it for Trump, that he didn't actually sleep with this woman, pay for her abortion. It was Trump slept with this woman, and this guy paid for the abortion, so it didn't come from Trump. Mm-hmm. So that's a rumor that's there. But either way, you could just say, if that's not true, which, to be fair, it doesn't quite make sense, because we know that Trump doesn't have a problem paying off women on his own. So
with furniture.
Well, I was thinking Stormy Daniels.
I know.
No, he tries to hit on women with furniture because, I don't know, Trump, whatever. But even if Trump didn't do this, we know that this former high up in the RNC paid for a woman to have an abortion, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we know that these things have happened. It's not. I think we heard something about some governor a few years ago, same thing. So it wouldn't be the first time. Anyway, that has been it on our thoughts for Handmaid's Tale season 3, episodes 1 through 3. Jason obviously recommends. I recommend. It's great. I'm happy to see where they go. I want to see the revolution. Let's burn these motherfuckers down.
We're going to get put on the wall for this, me running my mouth.
Yeah, if we get to the point where people start getting put on the wall, they're coming for us, because there's a solid record of where we stand on these issues.
And hey, just for the record, if anybody gets mad at any bullshit thought experiment I put out there, I'm probably wrong about all of it. So
we'll leave a comment and we'll address it.
Yeah. I'm probably wrong about everything I've ever said, so don't worry.
And also, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll see whenever we go live with the next reviews, and see whenever we upload something. And follow us on our social media, twitter.com/casualnotion, instagram.com/casualnotion, and facebook.com/casualnotion. And if you want, follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/casualnotion. We play games there occasionally. Not too much recently, but at some point we'll get back to it.
Yes.
And look out, we've been teasing it for a while, a special project coming up. It will come out. We're working on it.
We're fine-tuning it.
It will happen. It's nearly complete.
You're going to love it.
It's going to be good, but we just need some time. We want to make it right.
It's our baby that we were not compelled to make.
We had a choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us know your thoughts on where you guys think this is going to go in season 3, and if you're excited. Until next time, keep it casual, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.